Jesus is praying for you, and he is praying for me. Paul said he is ever at the right hand of God, interceding for us. In Luke chapter 22, when Jesus was preparing the apostles for his arrest and death and resurrection, he turned to Peter and he said these words to him, "Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift all of you as wheat, but I have prayed for you, Simon, that your faith may not fail. And when you have turned back, strengthen your brothers." There is so much in that verse, but I want us to hear one specific line. Jesus said, "I have prayed for you, Simon." Would you be willing to put your name in that sentence today? Are we willing to hear Jesus say, "I have prayed for you, AB"? Before Peter was tempted, Jesus had prayed. Before Peter had been angry enough to pull out his sword and fight for Jesus, Jesus had already prayed for him. Before fear gripped Peter's heart as he watched Jesus being arrested and then questioned, Jesus had already prayed for him. Before Peter surrendered to his anxiety and denied Jesus 3 times, Jesus had prayed for Peter's peace and for his restoration. Jesus is praying for us just as he prayed for Peter, which means that he's praying before we face trials, before our faith gets tested, before our lives get changed, before our fear attacks, before our enemy sifts us. Jesus is praying for us. Slow down with that a minute today. And so this thing that happened in your life this week, that unexpected phone call, that unpleasant moment, that unkind word that was spoken, that undeserved attention that you were given, that unplanned for diagnosis, all of those things, before you knew they happened, Jesus had prayed for you in them. And so there's this point where you and I have to begin to trust the prayers of Jesus more than we yield to the emotions we've gotten used to. That before we react, we learn how to respond. That before we let fear, anxiety, doubt, and question overcome us, that we remind ourselves, Jesus has already prayed for me in this. But hear what Jesus prayed in that moment. "I have prayed for you, Simon, that your faith may not fail." Jesus didn't pray that Satan would not sift Peter. He didn't pray that Peter would not deny him. He didn't pray that Peter would not get afraid, that the trial would not come, that he would not feel anxious or act in anger. Jesus prayed that Peter's faith would not fail. This is hard for us to wrap our heads and our hearts around, but here's the truth. He didn't pray that you wouldn't lose the job. He didn't pray that you wouldn't get diagnosed with the disease. He didn't pray that your marriage wouldn't fall apart. He didn't pray that the trouble wouldn't come. He prayed that your faith would not fail when the trouble was allowed. Because remember what Peter was told. Satan has asked to sift you, which means that Satan could not sift you if I did not give him allowance to sift you. But I want you to know this, when the sifting comes, I've already prayed for you. Don't let your faith fail. And so what I would encourage you with today, before we even get to our text, is that whatever trouble you're facing, Satan had to ask for it before he could bring it, and God only allowed it because Jesus has already prayed that it would be used to build your faith, not wreck your life. And so rather than us sitting in our places, and I sit there plenty, so I don't say this in judgment, but rather than us sitting in our places wondering, what are we going to do? How is this going to affect us? What comes next? We have to sit with ourselves and say, Jesus made a way for us. Jesus has prayed for us. God has permitted this. Let's make sure our faith is what we concentrate on. Because Jesus has not prayed that you would stay out of trouble. Jesus has prayed that trouble would make your faith greater than it's ever been before. Will we choose faith when we are surprised by trouble?